Hello, welcome to the channel, thanks for coming, and today I'm talking about the Nikon F80. If you're in the States it's called the NEN? No, it's not called the NEN, it's called the N80. So same camera, don't be confused with that. It's just called F80 around the world and N80 just for the United States for some reason. But anyway, I'm going to go through all the basic settings, tell you how to use it, and yeah, get you shooting with it basically. I'm going to load this bad boy film, a Kodak Pro Image 100, so you can see how to load a film. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you've been here before, thank you very much for revisiting my videos. If you've not, consider subscribing. You know the usual jazz that you get on YouTube, but really it really helps out the channel. If you want to know what I do, it's pretty much just photography as well as some silly vlogs about me. At the moment I'm pretty obsessed with analog photography, really sort of on like a journey. Oh god, that sounds cringy, doesn't it? But it's true, I'm on a journey with analog, so I'm just sharing what I learn, sharing what images I get and the usual stuff, making it interesting and making silly videos, and today is no different. So let's get into this bad boy and I'll show you how to use it. Right, first things first, let's load the film. So let's have a look here. You can see, I'm hoping it'll give it time to focus. There is a little catch there which you click. There we go, and it knocks my other film out of the way and it opens the lid. Now I'm going to take this one out. So this one I've just used. Now I'm really sorry, I should have waited and showed you how to rewind it manually, but I forgot. So I'm just going to take my little Lomo, there we go, out, and we're going to load this bad boy. So first things first, we're going to pop it in the camera. So for anyone that wants to load film, it should always go this way, curve facing down to the corner, and you want to put it all the way in there. So we just load it up, see that little clip, push it down a little bit, and then you pull it across like that, and you want that little curve just to go around the corner, so just there, and then all you do is slam it shut, there we go, and flip it over. Now what we do next is turn it on. Ta-da! You literally turn it on and straight away you can see it's done it automatically. That is literally all you need to do. Right, so next up we're going to start over here and work our way through the settings. Right, let's start then. So I've turned it on, which is why you've got these little dials here. And we're going to start over here with this. So what have we got? Well, we've got a button, we've got an S, we've got loads of little picture frames, a little timer, and then something hidden under that little mechanical thing at the bottom. So starting off then, what's that mean? The first one, you can see that little arrow means it's on the S with a square. That basically just means you're on single mode of firing. So it means when I'm not going to do this by the way because this is a live film and I don't want to waste a lot of pictures, but it means if I hit the shutter now, it's only going to take one. If you want it on continuous, where maybe you're shooting, I don't know, a bird flying or whatever, and you want to hold that button down and shoot as fast as it can do, maybe 2, 3, 4 frames per second, then you want this second one. You've got self timer, so you can choose the self timer button just at the bottom there with the little, funny enough, timer. And how you do that is you just hold this button down to release it. Oh, I'm moving it to release it and move it all the way at the bottom. So yeah, you've got single, continuous, timer, and then this lovely little one at the bottom, which is multi-exposure. What that mean? Well, it means if you stick it on there, you can take 2 pictures at a time and they'll overlap one another, or two shots at a time, sorry, and it'll be on one image and create that double exposure, a lot of people call it nowadays, and that's what you use for there. Not really something that I do, but you know, go ahead and have a play with that. For me, the type of shots I shoot, it's always single or timer, so there you go. So moving on to this little dial here. So we have ISO, CSM, M, A, S and P. What do they mean? Well, let's start at the bottom. P is for program mode, I think it stands for, which basically just means auto. in short, the metering system, depending on what you choose, will set the shutter speed, the aperture, and you are good to go to start shooting. So moving on to S, that is basically shutter speed priority. It just means that you choose the shutter speed, the camera chooses the aperture. So if I frame up here, you can show here that I'm choosing 125 as my setting for shutter, and the camera's choosing 2.8. I bet if I were to move this dial here right at the front, it doesn't do anything, and I want to come to that in a second. If I do the bottom one, it changes the shutter speed to 350, and that's me saying I want it to be 350 or 250 or 180, and the camera is metering to say that it should be 1.8 to get the correct metering, or if I go to 350, it's saying it's too low to set. So it's basically saying at that point, if you were to shoot like this, the camera is saying it's not going to work, the image is not going to be bright enough. And over here to the A mode, that is one I use loads with this camera, and it's that you choose the aperture and the camera uses the shutter speed. So really simply, if you go to this one here, you see, that's going to do the aperture. So I want f point, let's have a look, 4.8. So it's telling me to get the correct exposure for this setting. It needs to be 45 shutter speed, and so on. Personally, if you're new to sort of any photography, the aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode is a really good one to start. It sort of like teases you into it. But even me that's been doing photography for 15 years now, I use aperture priority mode quite a lot, because I feel like if you want to set a certain tone in your image, the aperture is very important. You can sort of get away, in my mind, with shutter speed depending on your situation. And for me, I don't particularly shoot like sports scenes or wildlife, so therefore the shutter speed isn't always as important. But anyway, I'm digressing. Moving on. M, well, that's manual. So if you stick it to M, you basically do them both. So you do aperture up here on this dial and shutter speed over here, and that would give you whatever it is that you want to shoot. Moving on then to CSM, well, we're going to come back to this. This is your custom mode. It's basically a load of different settings within the camera that you can set so that it has, like, I guess, shortcuts if you like, or it does certain things. So a good one, which I'm going to show you right at the end, is to set it so that it automatically rewinds the film at the end of it if it recognises it. But there's loads of others as well, which I won't go through in today's video, but there we go. So last one is the ISO. So this one is so you can manually set the ISO. So basically these cameras are quite modern in terms of film cameras. So usually for films like this one, like Kodak, or a lot of big manufactured films will be called DX graded, or I don't know the right term, but it's DX it's called, and it basically just means that you stick it in the camera as a sensor, it knows what ISO the film is. So it's got its spot on here, it's 100, it's a 100 ISO film. But if I wanted to push or can't speak. If I wanted to push or pull the film, oh my god, I genuinely can't speak. If I wanted to push or pull the film, you can do this. And basically what it's doing is it's just overriding what the DX is saying, so that you could maybe shoot at 200, etc., and get a bit of a different look. That's basically it, really. It's a really, really straightforward one. And let's move on to the next sort of settings we've got over here. So you've got this little button here, and again, this is pretty straightforward. You can under or overexpose however you want. Tip for me, I tend to overexpose by half a stop, just because I have got into that habit, won't lie. This one over here is the flash undo and overexpose, but tell you what, I've not shown you the flash. So you just move it to the side here, little click, ping, and you are good to go. This button here is your bulb, so if you press this, it should light up there, but you probably can't see because I've got some nice lighting on. And if you press this and that one there together, I'm just going to tilt it up a little bit, there, together, it will rewind the film. So if you get to the end of the film and it's not a DX graded 35mm, it won't automatically rewind. So you press these two and it just does it for you. Really, really simple. Again, I'm not going to do it because it's a live film in there. This is bracketing. So if you press this one, it basically shows the 3F and 2.0, and you can change that. So what it means is, I'm just going to hold this down a second. If you press that and go the back one, it means bracketing now is on. And if you press it that way, it's off, on, off, on, off. And if you then have it on, you can move the different stops between the bracketing. So you can have 2 f-stops or plus 3 f-stops. And so basically, if you don't know what bracketing is, check out some other videos. I've got it on my channel, but it's just a different way that you can take 3 different shots really quickly with different f-stops or shutter speed, etc. So that's all it is. Check it out somewhere else, but that's how you would set that up if you know what you're doing with that. Now, moving on to the back. we have 3 different settings. You've got a little spot with a circle around it, the one in the middle, and then the bottom one. So basically the 3 options are, starting at the bottom, you've got dynamic sort of setting. So if you were to use the auto sort of focus, and we're going to come on to how you would set that in a second, so that the camera decides where to focus and it continually tries to refocus, you want the bottom one. The middle one is central focus. So it just means that it's going to do all the metering and tell you what settings to have for the center of the frame. And the top one, which is what I have it on, it's called spot sort of metering, which is basically you decide where in the frame that you want to focus on, half press it, and the camera will tell you what the metering is. So perfect for using if you're using Aperture Priority mode. You can use this little dial here to focus in different areas of the actual image in the viewfinder, and then press halfway and it'll give you a setting that you should have for that shutter speed if you're using Aperture Priority mode, or flip for the shutter speed priority mode. Ignore this little bit at the bottom, by the way. This is a battery pack that you can buy on top of it. I'll do another episode on that. It's really, really simple, but it's a battery pack. So there we go. Let's flip it and let's have a look at the front of the camera. So we've got the focus point here. You've got manual for M, so you can click it onto there if you want full manual focus with your lens. You've got S, which is single, and C, which is continuous. Basically what this means is, I have it on single because I just usually use one shot. I half press my button, shutter speed that is, and take a picture. Continuous is really good if you use the metering for the dynamic purposes, where it's constantly scanning like those 19 points within the viewfinder, and if you have it on continuous, then it sort of auto focuses that for you. Not something I use, so yeah, don't use that. And then on this side you've got the button here, which is how you take the lens off. So, oh, there we go, that scared me. So if you press this down, you slide it around that way and it pops off, and you just match up the buttons. Where are we? So this is quite a new lens, so you just put it over there, and then to put it back on, you just slide it back on. Right, so last thing I wanted to show you was CSM, custom mode. I'm not going to go through them all because there's loads, but I wanted to show you the first 2 because I feel like it's quite important and it got me going a little bit right at the beginning. So how it works is you go to custom mode, CSM, and you can scroll up here with your back dial and it goes from 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way up. Right, so ignore that for 1, so that's there. So you've got 1, 2, 3 and so on and so forth. Then next to it you've got a 0 and a 1, and it basically means like yes or no. So for each setting it's got like a certain reason. So number 1 is what I'm going to get to you now. It's about the automatic rewind of your film, and 0 means yes and 1 means no. So it sort of means that with it doesn't sort of mean, it means that automatically the camera, when it gets to the end of the roll, will rewind the film. If for whatever reason you don't want that and you want to manually do it like I showed you earlier, you would just go to number 1 and you would put it to 1, which is no. So it basically just stops that happening. So for me, I like that, so I keep it on 0. And then the second one is about the DX I mentioned earlier as well, which is about letting the camera recognise what type of film it is. You can still override it by using the ISO, but this is another good one. I've kept it on 0, which is yes, because I like it just to automatically at least know what the correct ISO is, and if I want to override it, that's fine. But if you put it on 0, if you put it on 1, it's not going to do that, and you're going to have to do that every time. Right, thank you so much for watching. Here's a few snaps for you from the F80. I thought it'd be interesting to show you some results. You know the usual jazz. I hate saying this, it's a bit cringy, but you know what? It does help the channel, so if you could subscribe and like the video, share, you know the usual jazz, that would be genuinely very, very nice. So thank you very much. See you soon.